Peace and love, family. I'm back with another one. This is the Helping Our People Elevate Hope YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're a returning viewer, as I always say, it wouldn't be no channel without y'all. So I really appreciate y'all. I'm on the route to 700 subs, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll wait on you. Subscribe, man. What you waiting on? All right, so anyway, after you subscribe, we're going to jump into the origin of slave patrol or the police officers. And the reason why I wanted to do this, you know what I'm saying? As you see behind me, I got the emblem, you know what I'm saying, helping our people elevate. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to do this is because I continue seeing a lot of our people being slaughtered and massacred and harmed by these policy enforcers, you know, and on a serious note, serious subject, you know, it's like, how many of our people know the origins? How many of our people know the origins behind these policy enforcers? Where did the concept of police come from? You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to dig into that. And so without holding y'all, we're going to jump straight into it. Peace and love, family.
On behalf of Akuno Sanko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
As I said, we're going to go into the police origins and the legacy of slave patrol, or the origins of slave patrol, uncovering connections from slave patrols to modern policing. Modern policing, you know what I'm saying? We call it today, you know, the police department, police enforcers, policy enforcers, whatever you want to call them. You know, yeah. And so, like I said, without holding y'all, we're going to get straight into it, so let's get into it. And so, first I want to deal with this word slave patrol or slave catchers, deal with the origin of this word slave. You know what I'm saying? So we deal with the origin of the word Slav, S-L-A-V, Slav. And so it's any member of the people of the Eastern Europe or Asian Russia who speak the Slavonic language. And so the origin of the word Slav, and I'm going to dig more into it, show you some examples, but the origin of this term slave comes from the Slavonic people of the Slavic tribes, West Slavic, East Slavic, South Slavic. The term has its origins in the word Slav. The Slavs who inhabited a large part of the Eastern Europe were taken as slaves by the Muslims of Spain, which were Moors. During the 9th century AD, slavery can broadly be described as the ownership, buying and selling of human beings for the purpose of forced and unpaid labor. So you see, as it says, for the purpose of forced and unpaid labor. Like I said, we're talking about the West Slavic tribes, the Eastern Slavic tribes, and the Southern Slavic tribes. And before I go into this, you see the map on the left side. And so it's showing you the regions of the West Slavic, East Slavic, and the South Slavic. The people who spoke the Slavonic language. As you see now, you see the Western Slavic tribes, which are people of the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Eastern Germany. These are all European people. East Slavic tribes, the peoples of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, Kievan Rus, which eventually evolved to the Russian state, and as well as the Dravidic, Ramidic, and Servatians. You see the South Slavic tribes, the Balkan and region south of the Carpathians Mountains, Serb, Croats, Bulgarians, Slovenes, and Macedonians. The origin of slave patrol and modern policing in America are deeply entwined. They are deeply entwined. So look at the attire, and I'm gonna go into that too in a second. But slave patrols were established in southern colonies during the 17th century as means to control enslaved populations. Their primary function was to monitor discipline and capture enslaved individuals who attempted to escape or rebel against their owners. Their patrols were armed white men who had the legal authority to stop, interrogate, and punish enslaved people found without permission or outside prescribed areas. So, as I said, the term slave applies to them, but when they came over here through colonization and conquesting and subjugation and social engineering, they switched the labels. They switched the labels. They gave us black. When you look at the etymology of the word black, it means pale. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the etymology of any word, you'll find out its origin and find out we've been lied to. But just look at the way they played us, my people. Like I say, look at the way they dress. Look at the slave catchers. You see the dog. The dog been around since back then. I mean, before then, but they've been using the dog as a tactic, as a way of harming us. And so that's nothing new. Slave patrols in colonial America were initiated by local governments and plantation owners. Their primary purpose was to enforce slave codes and prevent slave rebellions or escapes. And so when you see me reading this word slave, I'm going to start saying prisoners of war when it refers to us. We were never slaves. We were never from Slovakia. We don't speak the Slovakian language. And so when they try to say that we were slaves, that's not us. We've always been prisoners of war. Our ancestors were fighting. We had a war. The war still exists. When you see them kill people like Sonia Massey, Sandra Bland, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, George Floyd, I mean, various others, Sean Barrett. I mean, just it's so many. I mean, DeAndre Starks, Robert Harris. I mean, there's so many that are unnamed people don't know about. But this is a war, a silent war that's been going on for 400, 500, 600 years that nobody wants to talk about. The specific initiation of slave patrols varied. Plantation owners and local governments collaborated to create these patrols, often deputizing European men to serve as patrollers. So they were deputizing the Slovakians, the Europeans who came over here, and making them so-called policy enforcers or police officers, as we call them today. But if you look at the 1921 massacre, you will see where after they burned and slaughtered and killed hundreds of thousands of people, they're still digging up grave sites now in 2024. They just found a elder man just 2 weeks ago down here in Tulsa, from the massacre. And so they're still digging up bodies from this massacre. But we've been prisoners of war. This ain't nothing new. It's just that we don't know what's going on, and we think that these people love us. They won't lie to us. I don't know what we think, but our thinking is wrong. I'll say that. And so, I mean, like I say, if you just look at the images from left to right, you see from left the slave catchers, the so-called police officers in today's terms, but the slave catchers. You see the brother in the tree. You see he's being sick by you see the dogs. It's a dog right here, right where this bubble is. But look at the picture in the middle. You see it's during the 60s, 70s. You see the way the police storming in the building and the colors establishment. Look at these people. Look at the image on the right. You see it. And this went viral. This was a young girl who was at a party. Police came, I think it was in Texas. And as you see the way he's grabbing her, and this was a teenage girl, this was a young girl. That grown man ain't had no right grabbing that girl like that. But local laws and slave codes regulated the behavior and movement of individuals. Patrollers were to stop and interrogate people, search their quarters, and used force to maintain order. These patrols were not only a means to control, but also served to reinforce the power dynamic and uphold the economic interests of Europeans. Again, Irish, Scottish, French, English, Dutch, Polish, German, etc. And so, again, the Slovakians, the people of the Slavic region or the Slavic area, these are the people now trying to tell people to go back home when they are the foreigners. This is social engineering being done. But like I said, these were codes that were used for the black codes. And so we're going to touch on the black codes, or what was known as the Code Noir, which it applied to the French. It was a French code in the beginning, and then the United States adopted it. But the Code Noir, or black codes, a decree originally passed by King Louis XIV in 1685 in France. It regulated the conditions of slavery and the rights of enslaved people in the French colonial empire, particularly in the Caribbean colonies like Saint Domingue, now Haiti, and the Martinique. And so right here it's telling you that these codes came from King Louis XIV in 1685 in France. And it was between him and those who he had enslaved, or those prisoners of war in the Caribbean colonies, or the Caribbean colonies. And that's the French against Haiti's war. And so when France was won a war with Haiti, they were putting these indigenous people up under this Code Noir system, or these black codes. The United States, particularly through the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, inherited some legal and cultural influences from France, including aspects of the civil law traditions. And as I've said before, the manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. Those who control the word control those who must use it. And so if you want to be identified as black, the Code Noir applies to you, or the black codes apply to you. And in law, according to the Black's Law Dictionary, it says that the black codes apply to the laws of slavery regulated prior to slavery in 1865. And so when you want to be called black, then these slave codes apply to you, as you see here right here on the screen. And so this applies to you when you want to be that. So we're going to, like I said, United States, particularly through the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. So this is showing you 1685, France had its hands in the Americas, because Caribbeans is part of the Americas. So 1600 to the 1800s, Louisiana Purchase, again, King Louis, that's what it's named after, 1803. So the United States adopted this ideology, not ideology, but this concept, this slave code, these codes for prisoners of war. All the member states of the Union of the United States adopted the 1724 French Code Noir in 1865. The French applied the 1685 Code Noir in the Caribbean, as I just read. And so if you're looking at these maps, as you see on the screen, on the left you see, well, both maps are the Louisiana Purchase, but on the left it's just showing you the perimeter, and on the right it's showing you the states and their names. But as you're looking at the map, as I went into on the last one, about how the Moors lost their land in the Americas, I showed you the areas that were, excuse me, I showed you the areas of the names of the locations that were named after the Spanish, after the French, after the British, or those of Great Britain. Los Angeles, Las Vegas, San Antonio, Saint Antonio. You know what I'm saying? I showed y'all that. But this is the Louisiana Purchase as well. Like I said, this is going into the Treaty of San Ildefonso. The people of France had always regretted losing Louisiana to the colony. How did they lose Louisiana colony? How did France lose their Louisiana Purchase? Many do not know. Let me see. Let's go into it. Some of the French in Louisiana still hoped they would belong to the France again. Spain had held the colony for almost 40 years. During most of this time, the power of Spain had been declining. Even though the colony had been prosperous during the 1790s, Spain still could not afford Louisiana. It was costing $337,000 a year to keep Louisiana. One Spanish official wrote, "Louisiana cost us more than it's worth." France, with the Treaty of Indefension, received a bargain on October 1st, 1800. The treaty was signed giving Louisiana and Florida to France. In return, Napoleon promised to create a kingdom in Italy for the son-in-law of the Spanish King Charles IV. The treaty was kept secret for almost 2 years. And so, in order for them to get their hands back on this, Napoleon promised to create a kingdom in Italy for the son of the Spanish king. Why they not teaching y'all? Why are they not talking about this in the school systems? Why they don't teach us what really was going on? The boomer sooner. You know what I'm saying? And then again, this is more into we're gonna go a little deeper into Code Noir. As you see, this is the book, and you see King Louis' name right here, Louis Falagres. I can't pronounce French, but you see it right here. And so, as it says, the Black Code of 1724, also known as the French Code Noir, was a decree passed by the French King Louis XIV administration to regulate the institution of slavery in the French colonial empire. Now, why did I put this chart up here? Good question, because this chart shows you the different color aspects in the French language. And so as we see gray, you see gris, you see purple is violet, turquoise is the same, beige is the same. So showing you where a lot of the American words, the American language word got its influence from France. Blanc, which is Blanco in Spanish, showing you where the French got their connection from the Spanish. Verde, which is Latin for green, but then you see vert down here for green. And then, let's look at black. You see noir, color, black. Maroon, interesting. The maroon is brown, but that almost sounds like a maroon, like a Moor. Look at how they spell blue. The only difference is in the English language, they changed the last two letters. They switched them around. That's the only difference. Orange is the same. And so you see it, etc. Rose, pink. I mean, come on, you see it. So the American language, you see where they got theirs from France, and you see where France got theirs from Spanish. So you see the connections, like I said, between Spain, France, and British, Great Britain, the English people. Then you got the Black Code's definition, like I said, in the Black's Law Dictionary. This is my personal book. And you see, as it says here, Black Code definition and legal meaning. And I made sure I copied the page from my book so you couldn't say, oh, he just made that up. So I copy pasted it from Google, and I gave you the actual page from my book. And this is my actual book. But it says a name given collectively to the bodies of laws, statutes, and rules enforced in various southern states prior to 1805, which regulated the institution of slavery, and particularly those forbidding the recipients at public ends and on public conveyances. And so I'm showing you right here that the Code Noir, the Black Codes came from France. All of the member states of the Union States of the United States adopted the 1724 French Codes in 1865. Now, what did that just say? A name given collectively to the bodies of law, statutes, and rules enforced in various southern states prior to 1805. And then, but when I go down, there's a misspell in Google, and I'll check it. I knew because I correct myself. But as you see here, it says 1865, which regulated the institution of slavery, and particularly those forbidding reception and public ends on their public conveyances. So the only thing was off was the 65, but it's the same thing. So it's showing you that the black codes, according to the law, when you call yourself black, these slave codes apply to you. This ain't something that I just made up. This is in the law dictionary. If you don't read, then you won't know. But it's right there for you. It's right here in your face. It's right here clear for you. So don't say I just made this up, because I didn't. But let's go deeper into it. When enslaved, like I said, prisoners of war, individuals were captured by slave patrol in colonial America. Their fate depended on several factors, including local laws or severity of other offenses, and the preferences of the slaveholders or plantation owners. Here are some typical outcomes for captured slaves. This presentation really wasn't finished, but I said let me go ahead and just get the people something and they can look into it. And I mean, like I said, I always say, don't ever take my word for anything that I put out there. Do your homework, do your research, and you'll be able to find out. So one of the first things we know that they would do to our ancestors when they would try to escape, you know what I mean, get their freedom, try to get out this horrible spot they were in, one of the first things that they would do is return them to the owner. If an enslaved person was captured while attempting to escape, the most common outcome was their return to their owner or the plantation from which they fled. Slave patrols were authorized to return escaped slaves to their rightful owner as a part of their duties. So, first thing you do is take them back to the conqueror, the one that captured them. That's the first thing they do. Then there was the punishment. Depending on the circumstances of their capture, enslaved individuals could face punishment upon their return. Now, this could range from physical discipline, such as whipping or confinement, or to severe forms of punishment or repeat offenders, or those perceived as to be inciting rebellions. Let me read it again, because I know I kind of stumbled there right there for y'all, so let me reread it again. It says, punishment, depending on the circumstances of their capture, enslaved individuals could face punishment upon their return. This could range from physical discipline, such as whipping or confinement, to more severe forms of punishment to repeat offenders or those perceived to be inciting rebellions. And so, if you on the same thing I'm on, or people like me, and I say me because I speak for self, but if you are a part of the wanting to help your people elevate society, wanting to help be a part of the community, do something positive, see how people prosperous, they look at you as inciting a rebellion, because you don't comply. You don't just follow the rules, follow their way. I've never been that type, and I refuse to be that type. But I don't want to sound like I'm pushing hate on her, pushing nothing radical. Like I said, I'm doing this because I see they continue killing us. A lot of people think that slavery doesn't exist, and we see it in today's times. Example I'll give is when I first saw the movie 12 Years of Slavery. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure a lot of us have seen that. There's a scene on there where you see the brother being hung. And as the brother's being hung, you see all the slaves walking around, and then the one sister helps him off the rope. But the reason, and I look at today's time when the police kill our people, and you just see us walking around, and maybe one person might say something. One person might speak up against it. One person might be fed up. But you got the masses. Oh, it's regular. It happens. Somebody gonna save us. All right, so make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe button. Leave a comment if you are already familiar with the origin of policing or the origin of policy enforcers. If you weren't and you want to know more about it, like I said, leave a comment and I'll do more into it, more in depth. This content wasn't done, but I felt like with everything that's going on, I wanted to just speak on it. And so, without holding y'all, like I said, I appreciate y'all giving me your time. Again, go check out that community convo, the real 918, the real Black Wall Street. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what it is. Source of pride, 918, baby. You know what I'm saying? Northside, baby. But yeah, like I said, we'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace and love, family.